Welcome to the Boundless Bible. My name is David Shapiro.
Hey, I'm Javi Marquez.
And I'm Jason Holloway.
Welcome. How's it going, guys?
Doing well. How are you?
Doing good.
I'm doing good. I am very excited about today.
Yes.
Yeah, this is, I'm going to allow Jason to kind of intro it in because this is something that he loves, actually.
The Prodigal Son is my favorite story of all for semi-obvious reasons.
Right.
It's serendipitous that we're recording this the Good Friday, the day, 2 days before Easter, which is my 2-year anniversary to coming back to the faith.
Amen.
And the one story that got me so worked up every time I heard it was the Prodigal Son. And the Prodigal Son is the story of a man who thinks he can do it himself.
Yeah.
And says, "Father, give me my inheritance. I'm going to go off and I'm going to do it all myself.
Right.
I don't need you. You're holding me back." And he goes and does it, only to find out he can't.
Yeah.
He can't do it. And, we'll talk about the story far more in detail, but he ultimately comes back and the father receives him. He expects to be received, not received at all, right? And he ends up coming back and not only being received, but being received and being celebrated for coming back. And, again, selfishly, that is something that really hit me. It's like, I didn't feel like I deserved this. I don't feel like that this is for me. Yeah. And if I come back at all, there's, punishment that should happen afterwards. And instead it's a joyous occasion. So that's why this story is important to me. So let's talk about it.
Amazing. I was just going to ask, do you consider yourself the prodigal? I was just going to say that. Is that...
I mean, without a doubt. Yeah. I mean, without a doubt, I'm very selfish, very believing I can do it myself, not seeing the wisdom of the Father who is trying to raise me and teach me and guide me in the ways, and being arrogant enough to believe I could do it myself, only to find out that, shocker, can't do it. And and then, again, when I came back, there was nothing but love and care and welcoming and, the reconnection that was there when I came back. And that's it. And I didn't deserve it. So totally.
Javi, are you the prodigal?
When I think about the prodigal son in the story, I do consider myself that way in a sense. I didn't follow the faith, or never in my life, really. And coming to Christ, I felt that I related to that story. And in the sense of me not being, just kind of doing my own thing and kind of squandering opportunities and squandering times to love and just kind of have a relationship with Christ early on in my life. And I rejected that. And I think me coming to faith, I do receive what I believe is amazing grace.
Yeah.
It's unmerited favor from God and receiving me into his kingdom.
Okay. I don't consider myself the prodigal, which is interesting, but I love, this is one of my favorite stories. The symbolism is off the charts.
Incredible.
Yeah.
In this. So
so deep.
Yeah,
so
very.
Deep. Yeah, let's get started.
Let's dive right in. So one of the things that I love right off the bat, and if you don't know the story, it's a very quick one to read. But this son asks for his inheritance from the father. And right off the bat, you go, okay, the son's asking for his inheritance. He wants to go party. He wants to do all this stuff. We don't realize that in Jewish tradition, you do not get your inheritance until the person is passed.
Yeah.
Oh.
So it's almost as if saying, I wish you were dead.
Yeah.
Father, I wish you were dead.
For sure.
I want my inheritance.
Oh, wow.
It's really intense. So he's asking for money that is not due to him at this moment.
Right.
And the father gives it to him, which is even more astonishing.
That's it's kind of the first big blow up point when you start to think into it and you go, the father didn't say, he didn't throw him in a cell and be like, you ungrateful creature,
right.
you. He said, okay. He didn't, push him away. He didn't do it with anger or anything else. He just says, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here you go, son.
And then he gives it to him. He didn't have to give him. Under no law was he supposed to, or did he need to give him, but he did. And that says everything.
For reference, we should have probably pointed this out, but Luke 15:11 through 32 is what the prodigal son story is. This is the parable. So just so you have a reference as to where we're looking into.
Yeah.
So yes, he gets his inheritance and he goes off and he leaves his town. It's very important because when you think about, people going to college or something like that, where do they do the most of their, partying is hey, I need to be away from my hometown. I don't want people to know me. I'm going to.
Not my son.
Kind of go.
I don't have any kids, but I can imagine parents thinking like, not my son. My son is he's studying up.
That's it. Yeah. So you go away.
He went away so he could be away from his friends, so he could be good and wise and kind.
Yes.
Yeah. That's what all the parents are thinking, I'm sure.
So, and he squandered his money. And here's the thing. When you think about wasting money, this wasn't as if he was living and he didn't want to work and it went little after little, a little bit at a time.
Yeah.
This is something where he went and partied and went through this money very, very quickly.
Yeah.
This inheritance was
I don't get
rapid.
Now that you guys talking about it, I'm thinking about like, what was your plan? Like, what was his plan to take this money? And was it just to be rebellious or just to live out? Maybe he was tired of just being at home the whole time and he just wanted, I want to break out of here and I want to rebel. Like, were you trying to start a business or something? Like, what were you trying to do with that money?
It's funny you say that because I often think that, kids think they have a plan, but if you actually stop and ask them the question, and I say kids meaning, late teenagers, early 20s, they think they have a plan, but they don't realize it's not actually a plan. It's just a single motion to get away from family, but then they don't realize that there's a whole lot after that, right? So I don't know if he had you wouldn't know from the story, but I would imagine like most young men, he didn't really have a plan. He had a step he wanted to take and didn't realize that there was more after that. And that's what happened, and he did. What happens when you take a step and you find yourself in murky waters? Yeah. You start consoling yourself with drinking and women and, fun times because it's better than acknowledging that you didn't have a plan. It's better than acknowledging you didn't have another step after your first step.
Okay.
And that's a downward spiral that lot of us have found ourselves in. I don't have a next step, but I'm going to go try this and then down the drain.
Yeah.
And this is what happened to him. And then at the end, like near the end of that part of the story, it does say there was a famine in the land. So even if he did have a plan, which I highly doubt he did.
It doesn't sound like it.
Even if he did, they clarify that there was a famine in the land. Nobody had money. Nobody had food. Nobody had anything. And he was living like literally in squalor, right?
Yeah. Well, and that's what happens is, best laid plans, we know what happens. Things happen where God has a different direction for you. Things are going to come up that you didn't expect. So maybe his plan was, hey, I'm just going to go party with this. And then, maybe I'll just kind of live off the land, kind of be, that type of lifestyle.
I'm going to go do some work, work with my hands and make this stuff work. But there was no work.
There was no work. And now there's famine and there's no food and there's no anything.
Yeah.
So everything that he had spent, and it was very specific. It said he spent everything. And then the famine happened.
Yeah.
So now it ruined whatever plan
that's
he
a good
did
point.
think he had.
That's a good point.
Wow.
Yeah, that timing is important, right? Yeah.
Yep. Because it ruined whatever he thought he was going to do. Now he can't.
Yeah.
And he just spent all of his inheritance. So now he doesn't want to go back home. He's embarrassed. He is not going to, get work or he ended up finding work, but he's not going to have the money to spend. And then he ended up getting a job that, again, we have to look at this symbolically.
I was going to say, talk about this. This is important.
Yeah. So symbolically, he is feeding pigs. Okay. This is his job, caring for and feeding pigs. But what you don't realize is he was Jewish. So right off the bat, you're talking about, this is an unclean animal that they wouldn't dare touch. And his job is to feed them. And he is actually jealous of them eating the food that he wishes he could eat while these are the unclean animals. You want to talk about, I am at the absolute lowest point that I could possibly be as a Jewish person. Taking care of an unclean animal.
And also the farthest from God. Let's not forget that. There's one thing to say where I'm at in the social chain. There's another thing to say where I'm at on the spiritual chain.
Oh, that's good.
And spiritually speaking, he is at his absolute lowest point. He has no money, no friends, no family. He has no connection to the town he's in.
Right.
He has a job, but even his job is being done out of pure necessity, not out of any sort of purpose or anything else.
Right.
And he's doing it with pigs, which are in his religion the uncleanest of animals.
Yeah.
And he doesn't even have food. He's so hungry that he wants the food of the pigs. So this guy is.
Have you seen those that food, that little, what do you call it?
Trough.
In the trough. Yeah.
It's like, whoa.
I was trying not to think about that, but
sorry. I take it back.
But
think about hamburgers.
This guy's depleted. Yeah. He's depleted. There's there's nothing left in him. Right.
Yeah.
Which leads us to the next part of the story. Right.
So he's at rock bottom. and I'm going to save the symbolism for later, but just part of the story is he knows he needs to go back home.
Yeah.
Right.
And he goes back home. And again, all the embarrassment, all the shame, all the thoughts of, hey, I'll accept whatever they take me in. He's comparing, what the servants in his house, eat. And he's kind of looking at himself going, I'll even be a servant eating that, and I'll be happier than I am now.
Right.
So he is kind of going back, looking to be, I'll be a servant, and I'm good with that. And he goes back home. And like Jason mentioned, him expecting this, okay, great, he's back, we'll do whatever for you. He ends up getting this incredible welcome from his father. His father runs.
Let's talk about what he expected, right?
Yeah, he didn't expect that.
What would you expect? He's, to my understanding, he's in this lowest part of his life, and he says, I want to go back. I would rather be one of my father's servants.
Right.
And at least he'll accept me as a servant, even if he doesn't accept me as a son or even validate my existence.
Right.
He'll let me work for him at least, out of the kindest part of his heart, right? So he's expecting to walk up and be like, "Oh, you loser!
Yeah,
you look what you did with half my inheritance.
Yeah,
look what you did with half of my earnings of my life. What you've done, and to be, the word is escaping me, but he's not being treated with any sort of respect. He's being chastised for what he has done wrong. This is what you expect.
That's what
right?
you expect. Yeah,
basically crawling back on hands and knees, having to beg to be able to sleep in the servants' quarters and, eat whatever.
Yep.
Like, this is what he's expecting. And instead of that, he sees from a distance that his father is standing on the hill, like waving him down and excited and joyful. And, what a difference than what you expect, right?
Yeah. No, that's incredible. I think that part of it, him just kind of being self-aware of where he was and what, just being able to know that, you know what, I'm willing to go through that just to be, at a different place or better. Like, that's, I have to honor that. I have to go,
Totally.
You know what? That's great. That's good that you turned back. That's a big deal for a lot of people. The ego, the you know what? I don't want to do that. What are they going to say? I would just rather stay in my pit here rather than like deal with the ridicule of my father or anybody else, or even being a servant in his house. No, he says, I'd rather do that and be a servant. I'll be taken care of more. And he did expect this like, bashing or whatever it is.
Right.
But he didn't.
No. So as you said, sees his father, waving him down, excited to see him. His father starts running towards him.
Yeah.
This is also something, again, you have to look at now culturally. What does this mean? So culturally, men do not run. Okay. These men do not run.
Wow.
The reason being is right now we go, okay, I have my joggers on, I'm going to go running.
No, it's kind of hard.
They're wearing a tunic. They have to lift it up over their knees to run.
Yeah.
No man would have lifted up his skirt, his tunic, showed his bare legs. This was something that they did not do as a societal norm. So his father was so excited that he went against the societal norm to run towards his son. So it wasn't just, hey, I'm accepting you back.
Right.
It was just an overjoyed moment where he's going, I'm even going against what we usually do.
Yeah.
I'm going to risk embarrassment of, all hanging out there and all my knees and all that just to get to my son.
Yeah.
So that's the type of excitement that's going on here.
Yeah.
Really exciting moment. Again, symbolically, just to look at what his father was doing.
Yeah. Let's not forget the sandals they're wearing and that there's the roads are kind of like all beat up and, dirt roads and rocks and stuff like that. I don't want to run in that.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was a
They're
joke.
not exactly Air Max, right?
This was a joke, by the way.
No, what's interesting, it's funny you bring up sandals. Literally what the father does is he offers him all of these things. He's like, this is my son. He's back. He's so excited. One of the things he offers him back, aside from the robe and the ring, is our sandals.
Yeah.
Oh,
and what you don't realize is,
you're all
again,
over it.
this is societal norm. The servant would have no sandals.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
The servants would have no sandals. So now when you have all that rocky ground, you're like, oh, these poor servants are walking all that. But they would have no sandals.
Wow.
It's the family members that would have the sandals. So him offering him again.
And a ring too, right?
And a ring. So what he's saying to him is, you are not a servant. You are my son.
Oh. wow.
I mean, this is so even that
I didn't know that.
symbolism of the
Yeah.
sandal.
And the ring does the same thing too, right? The ring is like
beautiful.
a symbol of familial relationship. And so
almost like
again,
a family crest.
Exactly. And so it's literally the welcoming back into the family. And to some extent, that ring is another part of an inheritance. So he's getting his inheritance back again beyond what he had originally asked for, to the way I understand it. Is that right?
No, you're 100% correct.
And so, like, besides the fact, it's not like, okay, you screwed up, you wasted half of my, lifetime earnings.
Right.
But now there's more for you still. And again, that monetarily, or inheritance wise, that's another big thing. It's not that I'm welcoming you back as my son who has nothing. I'm welcoming you back almost as if whatever I have now, you still get half of.
Right.
Like that's a wild.
Yeah, he didn't accept him in and go, you know what? Now you're gonna sleep in the barn,
right?
And you're not gonna get any new clothes or whatever it is.
Yep.
No, I'm restoring you
completely. That's the word. That's the word.
Yeah.
Complete restoration.
Yeah.
Complete restoration, despite his entire failure.
Yeah.
And that is not the cut to the chase, but like that is what our God does, right?
Amen.
Like it doesn't matter what you have done wrong. Even if you ask for your inheritance early, when you come back, you're still going to get your inheritance. That's the salvation and the forgiveness and whatever. But sorry, I'm
no, you're good.
Myself.
Well, that restoration, that complete restoration, happens with the next part, which is killing the fattened calf.
Yeah.
Where he says, "Go kill the fattened calf." Again, we're going to go right back into Jewish tradition, where you have to understand that when you are killing the fattened calf, this is again a big deal. It's not like they had 30 fattened calves out there, but when you kill the fattened calf, typically you would invite everybody from the village to share that with you. It wouldn't be something you kill it and eat it yourself and that's it. And hey, I'm hoarding this. This is mine.
Oh, okay.
So what it's also saying is not only am I restoring you, I'm restoring you in front of the entire village. Everybody here is going to know my son is back. You are my son. You're taking back control over, a member of this family, and he's saying that publicly.
And also, if I can extend that, I mean, we're talking about a society that revolved around the village as part of the family. That's why people married into, other things, because the city would become strengthened when the marriages became strengthened. When each person who came in and went out of the society strengthened or weakened the community. So not only is this a story of the father welcoming him back, but the father welcoming back and saying to the rest of the community, you have to welcome him back into the community as well. Which again, look, as a prodigal son myself, I didn't just get welcomed back by God.
Wow.
The church, the people who are part of it welcomed me back as well. And I got a stronger sense of community and belonging through that than just being able to say, hey, God, thanks for this. But like, I got you guys, right? Like I got everybody else who we spend time with and things like that. And my family got to be part of something else. So it's a story that even goes beyond the direct familial relationship and into the communal relationship.
That's beautiful.
What a story, man.
No, I never thought about that, but you're right. You do receive that. And I think that's one of the things that I've always hung on to as far as churches. I think church is a place where you could find community, people like-minded, and you're giving yourself up to this, to Christ and the Lord, and having a community, having a brother and a sister in Christ that's able to walk with you and kind of help you through where you were before. You need to be shepherd and still
strengthening is the word I would say too, right? Like we say you want people who are like-minded, and like-minded's great, but the like-mindedness is beneficial when it is supportive of each other, right? Like when I know what it is that I'm trying to do and the path I'm trying to walk, I need people to keep pushing me back onto the path. Yeah. Right. That's the strengthening of my relationship and my walk. I've had times in the last couple of years where I started to get off the path, and then I would either, one of you guys, I'd see you, and whether you knew it or not, I'd see one of you guys doing something. I'd be like, that's the way to do that. Or at times we've looked at each other and gone, wrong direction, dude.
Yeah.
and had to push ourselves back. And that's the beauty of community and being together with people.
I think that's the most profound thing there, because that's what matters within the return.
Yeah.
Right. It's, you could return, I open the door and you're here now, but I'm always bringing it up that you did leave. You squandered everything I gave you. I'm bashing you. I'm treating you different than everybody else. No, I'm welcoming you in the door, and I'm loving you, and I'm giving you the ring, and I'm giving you the sandals. I'm still walking with you.
And I'm making sure the community knows that you're back.
It's not just one and done. It's kind of, I'm continuing to walk with you within you returning. I am excited for you, and I'm going to show my excitement.
You have been reabsorbed into the family. You have been reabsorbed into. You're not now like a bolt-on add-on on the outside that can be dropped off again.
Exactly.
You have been reabsorbed into it, and we are all together again. and we will remain together again.
Right.
And it's just so beautiful. But let's talk about the other son.
Well, you
because
guys are
this is
actually segueing. It's funny. You guys are segueing so easily for me. You were talking about how the community kind of pushes you back on track when you're falling off of track. In Jewish tradition,
okay,
when this younger brother was falling off track, it would have been the responsibility of the older brother to correct that action, to push him back on track. That is the societal norm in the Jewish community. This older brother did not do that. He was not helping his brother.
Yeah.
What he did was the complete opposite. He got upset. He was not somebody who was helping his brother shape his life and what he should do and right and wrong. He allowed him to be the prodigal. And then when he came back, he then started to grumble and get upset and said, all these things that I've been doing for you, Father, for so long, and you've never offered me a fatted calf. You've never given me a party with me and my friends. He was very upset that he never got what he thought he deserved from doing what he felt he should have been doing this whole time with his father.
Yeah. It's funny because it took me the longest time to realize. At first, when I read this story over and over a few times, it was like, okay, well, the brother is admittedly upset.
Yes.
And almost reasonably upset. I've been here doing this. I've been doing what you asked me to do day after day. I've been a responsible, dedicated, committed son to the things that you need. I can get why he's upset. I get it.
Yeah.
And I never kind of thought past that. And it wasn't until maybe a few months ago that I realized that, like, that's the beauty of these parables, is that he sinned too.
Yep.
And his sin is equal to the guy who went away. And his sin is arrogance and selfishness. I've been doing this for you. Why does he get that? He didn't have to leave to sin, right? He didn't have to do anything wrong to sin. It just became about him. And that was the sin. And I thought that was a really fascinating, like, addition to the story later, was that sometimes the sinning that you're doing against the father isn't as blatant as the guy who runs off and gambles and, womanizes in another city.
Yeah. But knowing now also that the tradition of Judaism, knowing that the sin was the older brother is supposed to take the younger brother under his wing. He's supposed to be doing the right thing by him.
Yeah.
You're supposed to help.
Yeah.
And this is the Pharisees.
Well, see, I'm adding more to it now.
Yeah, they're looking at the Pharisees and they're going, you know everything. You know the scriptures better than everybody. You're supposed to be the one.
Add-on. Yeah.
You're supposed to be the one to help the community, and you're not. What you've done is put yourself first. It's all about self. You've turned your back on helping the community. You've only helped yourself.
It's about fulfilling your obligations.
Correct.
It's about knowing what you're supposed to be doing and doing them, but not paying attention to why or the result of the why. Ooh, that's a big one. I had never thought about that. So when you put them in the Pharisees' position.
I've always, when I see that part about the brother, I thought about it of him thinking that it's unfair, right? And unfairness. And we had an episode on it talking about unfairness and fairness. And it takes me back to the parable of the workers in the vineyard.
Yep.
Which is what Matthew 20:15 or Matthew 21. And then what I really wanted to highlight was 20:15, which it says, "Don't I have the right to do what I want to do with my money? Or are you envious because I am generous?" To me, the master there in that parable is God, and he's able to do what he wants to do with that inheritance. It's his inheritance. The brother shouldn't be mad at what's going on.
That's exactly right.
He's taken care of. That's another thing. That's the other thing where I'm taking it back to us as humans, right? We're going, wait a minute. How can he be loved? How come you take him in like that? And I've been here the whole time. And it's like the father turns around and goes, you're living in this mansion. Like, you're being taken care of. What are you mad about? Not only that, it's my money, is my inheritance. I do what I want with it. We should be celebrating for him to come back. This is the point. The point is, hey, he left. Now he's back.
Right.
He was lost. Now he's found. Let's celebrate that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead.
No. And the inheritance is gifts. I mean, the inheritance, when you look at God and we look at the big picture, these are gifts that you're being given. So if somebody has a gifts and they squander them, they're not using the gifts that God gave them. That's the prodigal son. And eventually he comes back and he starts to, what we assume is going to be to use his gifts. And listen, his gift is definitely of happiness. You see the happiness his father has in seeing him. He's able to then do something with those gifts, where the older son, again, was also given gifts. Neither one of them was given anything different from what the father gave. They just saw it differently.
It's also interesting to note, too, that he says, and I'm looking at Luke 15:31, The father said to him, son, you are always with me, and all that is mine is yours.
Right.
So when he says that, it's almost like saying, why didn't you, he asks him, why didn't you ever kill a fatted calf for me? He's like, because you didn't ask. Because you didn't ask, like had he, everything I have is yours. All you had to do was ask. My other son asked and he got it. He screwed it up, but he got it.
He did, yeah.
And, you just haven't asked. You've just been, steadily sitting there, grumbling. And I think this speaks to needing to have a relationship with God as well, right? It's like, it's like you said, the Pharisees is like putting a whole new tweak on this in my head, but like, they were not necessarily in relationship with God. They were in relationship with their duties.
Correct.
And this other son is now, the father's basically saying, had you asked me for this, you'd have gotten it too.
Yeah.
You would have gotten it just as much. The difference is you didn't ask. You were so busy doing your daily duties that you didn't take time to look at me and talk to me about what you really wanted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. When I look at the story, when I look at the parable, it's like right after two other parables before that.
Yep.
Right. And I'm not sure you were going to go there.
No, go for it.
But yeah, they talk about the parable of the lost sheep
and
the parable of the woman who loses one coin.
Yeah.
Right. And I think
can we talk about them for a second? Let's talk about those parables.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So, yeah, the lost sheep is the shepherd that goes out, I guess.
Has 100 sheep.
Yeah, has 100 sheep, and one of them goes off, and he leaves the 99 for that one sheep. That's a beautiful song. What song is that?
Yes.
I think there's a song out there. That's pretty good. And he goes and finds that one to return it back, and he's excited for it. He's celebrating for it. Like he'll leave the 99 to go get that. And I think that's beautiful about our God.
And celebrate when he does.
And celebrates
right.
with, yeah. And same thing with the woman who loses one coin. She'll go to the max to go and find that one single coin.
And when she finds it, she celebrates it, right?
Right. She celebrates. And that's where I think the highlight of this parable for the prodigal son is, it's yes, about the prodigal son being lost and coming back. That's beautiful. But God celebrating us for coming back. He's excited. He's over the moon. He's beyond the moon, but he's, excited for us to come back. And I think that's the beauty of this story and all these parables is how excited, how he would go to length to get us back to his kingdom, to get back to his relationship with him.
And then we'll celebrate in heaven over the return.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if you actually look at those three stories, the stakes get higher and so does the celebration.
Yeah.
That's good.
So the 100 sheep, it says that heaven will celebrate. When the woman finds her coin, she invites her neighbors in to show them she found her coin.
Yeah.
The prodigal son, the entire village.
That's good.
So as it gets more and more intense, more and more people are called in for this celebration.
Yeah.
So and listen, there's a lot of academia who actually don't call this the parable of the prodigal son.
Yeah.
They actually call this the parable of the loving father.
Oh, nice.
Because what they look at is this story of the father.
Well, that's perfect. It's really not about the son, right? It's not about either of the sons. It's about the father. And if you really stop and think about it, it is about the father's love. It's about the father's care. It's about the father's infinite amount of giving.
Yeah.
Right? The literal infinite amount of giving that he's willing to do for you. And the celebratory nature of the love he has for when he does have you in his arms again. Like you're right. 100%.
It's beautiful. And
I
the first thing I think about with that is those people that maybe are struggling with their father, or those that don't have a father and just feel like, well, I don't have a father to go run back to. We all have a father. We have God, the Father, that we always come back to. And that was one of my celebrations. That was one of the things that I hold on to tightly to me coming to the faith. Is I have a Father in heaven that's going to take care of me. He's going to provide for me. He's going to give me the strength. He's going to give me the wisdom to do the things. And my Father, I love him so much, but he's limited. He's finite, and he makes mistakes. And the mistakes he's made hurt me. But the God in heaven will take care of me. He's going to walk me through that. And I find peace in that, having a God, a Father in heaven.
If you look at the symbolic, references, though, you're looking at, all right, you have the inheritances. He asked for the inheritance right off the bat.
Yeah.
So before the father was dead, he asked for these gifts.
And he was the second son, so he wasn't supposed to get it anyway, was he?
No, of course.
Which is crazy.
Right, which is another crazy part.
But God, the Father, gave it to him. So we got our inheritance before the Father died. So when we look at Jesus Christ's death, we were given gifts prior to it.
Wow, okay.
So we were given these gifts, these spiritual gifts.
Prior to our death.
prior to our death, prior to Jesus's death,
Yeah, even
we were
that.
given these. So prior to the Father being crucified,
Yeah.
we were given these gifts. The Father does run towards us. The Father does forgive us. The Father does love us
Yeah.
that much. The Father is willing to take us right back to share in everything
Yeah.
of His.
Yeah.
It is the symbolism, like I said, to match up with what God is saying at that moment. What Jesus is literally saying at that moment is everything that we can declare as followers of Christ, which is the Father's accepted us. He's given us His inheritance.
Yeah.
Everything we've seen, we are in community with each other, with God. I mean, man, the story, that's what I'm saying. It's not, I don't compare myself with a prodigal. That wasn't my life.
Right.
But I do look at this story and just, I'm in awe at God.
I wanted to ask you guys, and maybe not to veer off a little bit, but just something deep in that sense. You guys are fathers, and I wonder what you would react as a father if your son was to do something like this, and maybe on his return, how would you react as well?
Oh, I mean, you just like this father, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think any father worth his weight in salt who reads this story on some level sees himself as both son and father, and sees himself as somebody who has screwed up and needed their own father, but also sees what they would have wanted that father to be and
Right.
and for them to themselves to become, is the father who believes in their children so much that even if they squander it, it's like another chance.
I think for me, I will always love my kids.
Yeah.
But I do see the difference between a heavenly father who will allow you to make your mistakes.
Yeah.
And as a father, you're kind of like, look, I want to prevent these mistakes. I
Yeah.
want to, not only do I want to be right and show you, hey, look, I've lived through this.
Right.
I'm trying to teach you a lesson here. And when they come back, to kind of let me put an emphasis on this. Let me put an exclamation mark
Yeah.
so you remember this moment. Maybe not to gloat, but just to be like, hey, I don't want you to forget about this so quickly.
Notice I said fathers want to
Yeah.
be
Yes.
like that. I don't know if I don't know if all fathers are able to be like this. I mean, it's
what's those famous words? I told you so.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
That-
You don't want to hear
I
that.
mean, no. But listen,
How do you say that in Hebrew?
obviously the Heavenly Father knows a lot better. His ways are a lot better than mine.
Yeah.
So I look at that and I go, I don't know if I would have been able to follow
Yeah.
exactly. Would I have run to my son? Absolutely, because I would have
For
missed him and all of that.
Yeah.
The other thing is, I mean, he's hanging out with pigs, feeding them unclean animals. He probably smelt pretty bad. So, running towards him, I'm like, woo, you need a shower.
Yeah.
But the Heavenly Father's way is so much better than mine.
Yeah. Amen.
These stories always, not only do they teach me something, but they give me hope that I can every day, if I'm trying to be more like Jesus, if every day I'm trying to be better, I can look at that story and go, you know what? Maybe next time I can be a little bit different. Maybe next time I
Yeah.
can help a little bit better. I can be a better, bigger brother to somebody else. I can be a better, father to my
Yeah.
kids, something. And it's, these stories are great because when you start diving into just how magnificent they are with the symbolism.
Yeah.
Man, it's funny, which I'm going through symbolism today in your.
Well, no, this is why. Look, for once, we're talking about a parable. So a parable doesn't have to be taken literally. So we're in my universe.
Yeah.
Like, I don't need to figure out whether what this guy's name was and where he came from, and I don't need to know any of that. I just need to know what the story is telling me. And this story is so intensely powerful. And I'll even challenge you a bit, to say that you said you don't see yourself as the prodigal son because you didn't leave and go. But there's something about the prodigal son story I think that is true to all of us.
Okay.
Which is, remember I said earlier, in his story, he became the lowest part of society, the lowest part of spirituality.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until he hit his rock bottom that he was able to see the necessity of his father.
Yeah.
It wasn't until he reached a complete and total and utter darkness in his life,
Right.
when he had been crushed and broken and realized that there was nothing he could do to get himself out of it, that he realized he needed to run to the Father.
Yeah.
And I think that there's only two types of Christians. There's the people who grew up in it, believe in it, know it, and they're the older son, and they're, going through the motions and they're digging out
Right.
they're doing what they have to do. And then the other people are the people, and by the way, you can be both. You can be both.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's the people who have faced darkness.
Mm.
There are people who have faced addiction. There are people who have faced abuse. There are people who have faced I actually at one time thought the clearest way to see Jesus is to see the devil. When you see the devil, you realize how much you don't want to be anywhere near that. And that's when the face of Jesus comes real clear. And you're like, that's what I want. There's this really great quote that I heard once that the tallest trees can't grow to heaven without having their roots planted in hell. And that one has hit me for a long time. And I think this story tells me that story. Like, if you spend any time at all imagining what it's like to get everything you want, to squander it all, to be on the lowest part of the societal, spiritual, emotional universe, and then to realize, oh, that's what I need.
Yeah. Wait a minute. You just made me think of something. Like, are you saying that the prodigal son took the inheritance, right? Took the success, let's say, and left the house, left the kingdom.
Yeah.
So without being in the kingdom with the success doesn't mean much.
Doesn't mean anything.
Right? Without having that grounding, without having that footing, without having God in your life.
That's it.
It doesn't mean much.
It doesn't mean anything.
It
doesn't mean anything. And that's the whole point of all of this, is that none of this means anything unless you have God as your grounding, foundation. None of it means anything. So he had everything. He got literally everything that was owed to him, he got.
Yep.
And it wasn't enough.
Yeah.
Right? And because eventually all this stuff, what does God say, or what does Jesus say? All things will fade, but my words will not, right?
Yeah.
So,
Amen.
and all the money faded, all of the prostitutes faded, all of the whatever, the drinking and carousing he was doing faded.
Right.
Even working for his own self-worth faded.
Yeah.
There was nothing left.
Yeah.
All you ever have is God. And this is kind of the again, like it's a story that can hit on so many different levels. I could talk about this forever, but
I can see myself as a prodigal through that. Because I mean, I've definitely faced rock bottom in my life, and I can compare myself a little bit better with the prodigal now. So thank you.
So, guys, this has been maybe my favorite episode so far. And I even hope we do this again later. But thank you for your time and your consideration. We always appreciate you listening to us. If you have anything to follow up with us, David is now running directly our new Facebook group.
Oh, yes.
It's called the Boundless Bible Discussion Group. We would love for some comments, thoughts there.
That's awesome.
Also, make sure that you are not only following us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, but also reviewing. Those reviews are super helpful for us, guys.
Thank you, guys.
So the more you can do that, the better for us, and hopefully the better for you. Again, thanks for everything. Socials are out there, and looking forward to the next one. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
See you. Thank you.